There are some, I can see some chat. Beena Mirchandani ji says, number one, if we look at the world as is without filters, will it lead to discontent even though it is partial? Number two, does no content involve dropping, whereas content involves accumulation? Or is no content require nothing to be done? Now, the point to be understood here is, do we really have the ability to look at the world without filters? To look at the world without filters, by implication means that you are not allowing your mind to interfere in the process. Only when you do not allow your mind to interfere in the process, then only you will be able to look at things as they are or as it is. Because as I said, all our means of looking at something is through the senses and the mind, which by nature are limited. So if you are allowing the mind to be active in the process of looking at the world as it is, then it will always lead to discontent. But when the mind is not active, the whole process of the mind is not involved in it, then there is a different kind of perception altogether. Then it will automatically be holistic. It will no longer be partial or fragmented. The second point, does no content involve dropping? It is not dropping. As I said, when I'm talking about no content, I'm talking about what is generally or traditionally understood as wisdom. In a different context, I have mentioned that wisdom is like the sun, like a tube light in the room. Now, knowledge, if you are entering into a dark room, it is like carrying a small candle or a matchstick. It will only illuminate a certain portion of the room, and that too partially. You will not be able to see anything completely. You will not even know what are the proportions of things. What is the length or height of a bed, or the length or breadth of a table, or the true shape of a chair. This illumination from a candlelight or a matchstick is only very, very small and partial. But suppose you just switch on the light, switch on the tube light in the room, what happens? You will see the entire thing at one stroke. The whole thing you can see at one stroke. You can see the bed, you can see the table, you can see the chair, you can see everything in that room in one stroke. So no content implies the illumination of wisdom. It is that wisdom which is illuminating everything now. So question of dropping doesn't arise. It's a question of holistic perception in one stroke. Like when the sun rises. When the sun rises, what do you see in the world? The whole world becomes visible to you. As far as you can see, as far as your eyes can see, it all becomes illuminated at one stroke. Suppose it is dark, it is pitch dark. Today happens to be Amavasya, the new moon. If you go out, there is absolutely no light of the moon also. So what happens? Everything is pitch dark. So you can't see anything, you can't see the color of it, you can't see the texture of it, you can't see the shape of it, size of it, nothing is visible. So that's the difference between what we call as a knowledge, which is partial, and the illumination of wisdom, which illumines everything at one stroke. Okay. Then there's a question from Mr. Suresh. Would it be right to conclude that no content stage is equivalent to a liberated mind? I would not go to the extent of calling it as a liberated mind as such. I would call it as a mind which is illumined by wisdom. The mind which is illumined by wisdom, where you are able to see things in their proper perspective. You are able to see them correctly, rightly. And therefore, the chance of error is almost negligent. You have removed all the error that can creep into it, because your perception is holistic. Yeah, no content is what is. Yes, you can very well say that no content is what is. That means you are in direct touch with what is. See, Jiddu Krishnamurti is very fond of using this term "what is," and he would imply more with respect to observing oneself in self-observation, in self-perception. Krishnamurti says, suppose I know that my nature has an element of violence, or I am envious or jealous or angry. Now, perceiving that anger in totality without allowing the mind to interfere in the process and seeing the completeness of it. See, he says when you are angry, it is not that you are different and anger is different from you. At that moment, you are that anger, because your entire being is filled with what is called as anger. Can one look at it as it is without justification, without condemnation, without accepting, without rejecting, without judging it, without naming it, without doing anything? That means do not allow the mind to operate in any manner whatsoever and perceive things as it is. That would involve what is called as the wisdom part of it, or the intelligence of it. And you are, to that extent, you are right to say that no content is in a way equivalent to the perception of what is. Now, Mr. SVR Shetty says wisdom is error free. Please elaborate. Now, as I said, when you have this illumination, when you have switched on the light in a dark room, is there any possibility of you are stumbling in that room, or falling, or dashing against a table or a chair or any object in that room? I'm only giving an analogy. See, when there is illumination, the possibility or the probability of committing a mistake is substantially reduced almost to the equivalent of zero. That is what I mean by saying error free. See, this perception can be internal. In fact, this is supposed to be internal. When you look at anything outside you also, the faculty of perceiving it holistically, the faculty of looking at it without the interference of your accumulated knowledge, without the intervention of any process as such. Now, such a process is what we call as wisdom, or in my this thing I have mentioned it as no content. So no content, because no process is involved, no material is involved, and it is purely illumination, it becomes error free. Hope I have clarified it, Mr. Shetty, or you want some more. I don't know whether if my answer is satisfactory to you. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay, but is wisdom always is without error? I mean, there are wrong wisdom sometimes.
No. That wisdom is you have become wise through experience. I'm not talking about that worldly wiseness. Okay. One has become worldly wise. I'm not talking about the worldly wisdom.
Okay.
This wisdom is totally different, sir. See, over age, we have made 100 mistakes in our life, and obviously, our possibility of committing similar errors comes down drastically.
Okay.
But that doesn't guarantee that the 101st time you are not going to make a mistake. No. But what I am talking about is your perception towards things completely changes. There's a complete transformation in the perception of things as they appear to you. That is the intelligence which operates. That is the wisdom of a jnani. That's what they say. What is jnana? Is that wisdom. That is what operates, and he is able to see things in their totality.
Okay.
So you have to make a differentiation between being worldly wise and wisdom from a higher perspective. I would rather, I'm not very fond of using the term spiritual because it can have different connotations, but basically it is that from a higher perspective, you are operating in a state of consciousness where you are able to see things completely inside out, holistically, and therefore it is error free.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, any more questions, please? Hope what I have said made sense. In the sense, I want allow things to sink in as to the nature of knowledge and nature of wisdom. What is the basic difference between these two? That has to be understood. And as I said, even in smaller things, it will operate. Even in very small things, it will operate. That is the reason why a person who is truly established in jnana, who is called as a sthita prajna. Sthita prajna means one who is firmly established in wisdom, in jnana. And the Bhagavad Gita is a very typical example is given where Arjuna does not ask Sri Krishna about the internal workings of a jnani. He asks about how does he sit, how does he walk, how does he converse, how does he talk? Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha. How does he talk? What is the how does he communicate with people? How does he sit? How does he walk? That means when a person is imbued with that wisdom, is filled with that wisdom, it is reflected in every small action. How he talks to people, how he walks, how he eats, how he sits. So every action of him is a reflection of that inner wisdom. That is the transformation one is talking about. You can't ask about what is the nature of the mind of a sthita prajna. Nobody can see. Those are things which are internal. But a wise man, through his thoughts, through his words, through his deeds, through his movements, he will reflect that wisdom. That is the beauty of being, imbibing wisdom. Imbibing is actually drinking in and filling yourself with that. So that is the wisdom which we are talking about here, and I have called it as no content.
Any more questions?
Yeah. There are no more questions. Yeah, I think it's all. It's 1 hour now. We've already come to the. It's 8:04.
All right.
Okay. So I'll be. This is a small presentation of about seven or 8 slides in all. I'll be sending it to Veena Mirchandaniji. Whoever would like to have this presentation, you can just send the email to her, or on the Rtambhara website. You can go to rtambharawellness.com and then post your name and mobile number and email ID.
Yeah.
So we can share this with all of you. And if possible, I would only request you to go through it back and forth and correlating each point, because we had a limited time. I didn't want to go on and on with each point into much detail. But I'll leave it mostly to the participants and the readers to acquaint themselves more with it and correlate it with our daily experience with this process of accumulation and acquisition of knowledge, and how do we look at things from the perspective of wisdom. Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Also, we have recorded this session, so you will
Yeah.
have that PowerPoint presentation on the recording as well.
Yes.
So that's
it-
also
it also.
going to be there for you. Okay, so thank you so much, Krishnapani ji. There's a lot of content here for us to absorb, so I think we need to process it very carefully, and hopefully we'll be wiser.
The whole idea is that see I want to make one small thing clear, and I would also request the participants, because from my part of it, I would always request my participants to delve deeper into it on one's own. What is presented here is only a pointer, is only some kind of information that is available. But what is more important is to delve deeper into oneself and realize the importance of it. What I say may be true, may not be true in all cases, or the understanding that comes out of it by merely reading may not be sufficient in certain cases. But it's only a means to look at oneself more seriously and delve deeper into it. And that's the reason why we request the participants to be more participating. That means more serious about it, more involved in it, so that mutually we derive the benefit out of it. This is not, see, all this is gathered from so many sources. I have reframed or put these points in my own words and given it a fancy title of content, discontent, and no content, just to, attract your attention. But these are from the ancient tradition which we have, and a true kind of deeper understanding of the scriptural literature that is available. It will give you an insight into all these things.
Thank you. I think, yes, you're absolutely right, Krishnapani ji. I think we look at the world with filters. We have to be first aware of the filters that we have, so that we can actually see everything for what it is. And, and then we have to actually, after that, understand our own experiences, understand everything, and then look at how we can actually do things in a more holistic sort of fashion. We have to start looking at everything in a more holistic way instead of the partial, limited way in which we normally accumulate, knowledge.
That is the reason why in our scriptures, whether it is knowledge or wisdom, both have been in one way compared to an ocean.
Right.
Even with respect to knowledge, it is so vast. It is so vast. And wisdom has its own dimensions. So each one is limited by the type of container which one brings. There is a very beautiful saying in Hindi, saying "Gagar mein sagar." If I bring a small pot to the ocean, I can only carry a pot full of that ocean. If I bring a bigger tanker or a bigger vessel, I can carry more of it. So it is what we come with to that ocean that matters, rather than the ocean itself. The ocean is always vast and infinite. What matters is what is the type of container, what is the quality of the container, what is the quantity that container can take. That is what is defined or limited by our own nature. So once we expand that, there is that great possibility of our becoming the ocean itself. So there is that possibility of one becoming the ocean. Then there is no question of any container or any content or anything to be carried to the ocean, because wisdom makes you, gives you the path or leads you in a way that you become the ocean.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So for everybody here, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the program we have for you next week. On the 29th of May, we have Shri Ishwaran Ji, who's going to talk to us on dynamics of mind. And then again on the 2nd of June, we have Dr. Vikram Adityan. He's an Ayurveda expert who's going to be talking to us on virus, vitality, and Vedas. So please stay tuned in, and we'll send all the information and the details out for both the programs. And we look forward to your participation next week, 29th May at 7 p.m. So with that, we conclude today's session. Thank you all for your participation.
Thank you so much. Thank you.